Welcome to the KOMO Sports End Zone podcast with KOMO Sports Director Nico Tamurian and Najee Moye.
Welcome to the KOMO Sports End Zone podcast. I'm Nico Tamurian, joined as always by Najee Moye. Najee.
Nico.
Boy, oh boy, what a big week this is.
Boy, oh boy, I am still sweating from that game. Sweating in sadness, sadly.
Yeah, it was... Okay, listen, you look at the final score, 30-13. Okay, it was a blowout. But the reality is they had chances late. The Geno Smith end zone interception. Then after Geno goes down, they have one last chance. Sam Howell throws the interception. Now, the Geno one certainly I think is more costly given it was in the end zone.
We have different thoughts about the word chance.
Well, what's your interpretation?
They had no chance from the very beginning. No, I mean, we're watching the game, and we see Josh Jacobs do, like, the Packers did what I call, and you can call this in Madden, you call it in College Football 25, you call it in football, statement-making drive. Marshawn Lynch used the phrase, run through an individual's face.
Yeah.
And that's what happened in the first quarter, and the Seahawks never recovered from Josh Jacobs just assaulting the defensive line.
Oh, yeah.
From the very beginning. So, and you heard it from guys in the locker room afterwards or in the media room afterwards. They just felt like I don't want to say they were unprepared. It didn't seem like they were prepared, though.
No, I mean, listen, Mike McDonald said they wanted to start fast. They obviously were the complete opposite of that. And for how well they looked in that 4-game win streak, it's like they all went out the window. It's like they forgot how they did. It looked more like the Bills game.
It looked a lot like the Bills game in that there were less penalties.
Right.
There were less drops. There were no snaps over Geno Smith's head. But just the defense was the rush defense. And you mentioned this before, just like when Josh Jacobs played for the Raiders last year, he did the same thing to the Seahawks.
Oh, yeah. It was that 2022 game, went to overtime.
Right.
He had an 86-yarder.
To win the game.
And
exactly.
229 yards on the ground. That was crazy.
It's the same sort of things that the Seahawks kind of deal with. I remember a couple of years ago, the Panthers came to Seattle, and they ran for almost 300 yards on the Seahawks. Yeah. I know this a couple of years ago, different coach, different team, but I mean, the same essentially effect. It's just like you're just throwing your hands up and just wondering what's going on, Nico.
Yeah, and that's the key point, wondering what the heck is going on.
Right.
No question about that. So there's not much time to figure that out.
No.
Because the 12-2 Minnesota Vikings are here on Sunday.
Yeah, only gets
a game
worse.
that we hope is not the last home game of the season because the hope is they can somehow find a way to win the NFC West, which, listen, for as bad as that Packers game was, they're only behind by a tiebreaker. It's a virtual tie. The Rams are in first just because they beat the Seahawks on November 3rd. So there is everything in front of this team, and the great news to come out of the Virginia Mason Athletic Center, first day of practice Wednesday, Geno Smith full participant.
That's great to hear.
It'd be shocking if he didn't practice.
That's great to hear.
If they were trying to like manage and like ramp him up, he'd be limited. Or maybe not even practice today. The fact that he's full go, we have a great shot from the great Doug Pigsley at our station. He's given the thumbs up, which I love, and.
Because at the time of the injury Sunday night, it didn't look great.
Right.
And it didn't look great. Geno walked. He was about to walk off the field, fell to his knees,
Yeah.
and then walked to the medical tent, and then walked to the locker room. He eventually came back, and then Sam Howell, in Sam Howell fashion, did what he could do behind that offensive line, and just. I know that Sam Howell is a good quarterback. I mean, as a Giants fan,
he didn't look very good. Listen,
you saw flashes of goodness last year in Washington. Small flashes, like of a small disposable camera flashes.
Well, I got worried during training camp. He didn't. It was really kind of scary. Then he looked okay in a couple of the preseason games, but I was like, that training camp image was marred in my head, and then. Sure. It didn't really change very much. Mike McDonald saying as you were with me in that press conference after he was like, frankly, we want him to play better. I'm like, yeah.
Frankly, yeah.
So I do want to show everybody really quick the shot of Geno throwing at practice. And I made that the background. I'm going to have to change. I'll show everybody in a second. I uploaded to the wrong part. Give me 2 seconds.
No, it's okay. And Geno Smith, and it's good that he's playing. I mean, obviously, Sam Howell is an apt backup. The Seahawks had enough confidence in him to trade for him after losing Drew Lock. Yeah, Geno Smith is out here.
Yeah, Geno Smith in the throwing motion, and Mike's just like,
he's like, let's go.
Let's go. I got my quarterback back.
Because he knows that's his best chance.
Is that not the coolest picture you've ever seen?
Yeah, I mean, he's like, listen. This is the guy, and the thing is,
Well, it's gonna be tough to win without him.
it's gonna. Well, they would not win another game without
Right.
him. Given the situation, and those are basically your playoff hopes goodbye. But he's a straw that stirs the drink, and he's the heart and soul of the
Like the
Seahawks
Reggie
team.
Jackson line, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And he's the guy. A lot of guys said this in the media room after the game Sunday. It was like he is the undisputed leader of this team.
Well, I think the small sample size that we had of Sam Howell in that game shows everybody that Geno Smith is probably better than he's looked at times this year.
Right.
Because of how much pressure he's under.
Right.
There's almost no help in that offensive line. And am I saying that Geno Smith is like Patrick Mahomes-esque? No. But am I saying is he getting a lot of undeserved flack? Yes. I like this team, if let's say Sam was the starter, which remember so many people were like, oh, will he compete? It's like, no, he's not competing with Geno. If Sam Howell started the season, I think Sam could be a good quarterback, so maybe he would catch on. But right now, he's just not for this team. They wouldn't even be in the playoff picture is the best way to put it.
I was going to say if Sam Howell was the quarterback of the team, they'd be watching college football a lot more closely in the future.
Right.
This past year, just talking about a top 10 draft pick maybe,
Yeah, so the good news is, as we saw in that picture, full participation. And that means you have a fighting chance against Minnesota.
Sure. Now, as I said to you on Sunday, and I said to many people that when the Seahawks played the Packers, they were playing the third best team in the NFC North. Think about that. Talk about the Lions. I know the Lions have a bunch of injuries, but the Vikings have been red hot. They've been red hot. They've been purple hot, honestly, since the beginning of the year with a kind of almost a duality type of Geno Smith situation in Sam Darnold,
Right.
Who kind of both former Jets.
Yeah.
The Jets tend to ruin quarterbacks, as we know. They've ruined. And Aaron Rodgers, and a bunch of other guys, but they've been balling out through the air, through the ground, and on defense. This is a tough matchup against the Seahawks. That the Seahawks had this week. It's a very tough matchup, and we saw what exactly happened when they have not former Viking, but then when they have a tough running back, it was Josh Jacobs running through them like cheese on Sunday.
Well, I'll say this about the Vikings, like the Seahawks, they have proven that the Jets are a graveyard for rookie quarterbacks.
That's true.
Like we saw with Darnold, right? And lo and behold, he's like a star in Minnesota.
Yeah, and that may be just a scheme thing, and that may be also having.
It's all about fit these days.
And it may also be having guys like Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson to throw the ball to.
Yeah, it didn't work for Geno in another place. Then he found the right spot, like Russell Wilson, Denver to Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
So all that said, this is a huge game, a virtual tiebreaker, 3 games to go. This is by far the toughest of the 3 games.
Sure.
If you win it, you put yourself in a really good position to at least anyway have that last game against the Rams be maybe for everything, right? If you lose, then you have to hope for some help, like in other words, the Rams losing along the way.
Right.
And so that's where it becomes tricky. We can dive into the X's and O's, and we already kind of have a little bit, but what McDonald said is that the team is aware, right, of what this game means. And I think that's one of those X factors that I love to look at. Like, we can break down the X's and O's till we're blue in the face, and we can take a look at this and that and the other thing. But the reality is, the Seahawks have proven, 4 games in a row, that they can make things happen as long as they don't look like they did against Green Bay. And I tend to believe there's going to be that sense of urgency that maybe should have been there, definitely should have been there Sunday, but will be this coming
How do
week.
they beat the Vikings?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think that if the defense plays how it did in the first 4 games after that bye, then I think we're in good shape. There was a lot of things going on. I hope the Packers didn't provide a blueprint. Because every Seahawks player and coach that we saw after the game was saying how just the simple misdirection, the window dressing, the motions before the snap, we're kind of throwing them for a loop. And it's like, guys, you can't do that.
I think
and now if the Vikings do that, are you going to be adjusted or is it going to get you again?
I think I said to you at some point very early in the game that the defensive line just kind of looked confused a little bit.
We're seeing a lot of late subs.
Late subs, a lot of guys just kind of swapping positions. Ernest Jones and all the linebackers are kind of pushing defensive linemen, pointing at guys, and I think Ernest Jones even said it, their eyes are just going everywhere.
Yeah.
In the backfield, as it should, but they're going to the wrong places, And they're facing another former Packers running back this week in Aaron Jones, who's a stud.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put him you can put him in the same category as Josh Jacobs. I mean, and that being said, Sam Darnold's playing much better than Jordan Love. Sam Darnold's an MVP level quarterback. I don't care what anyone says.
Which is crazy. I can't believe I just heard those words.
It's true. The numbers
no,
are
I don't
just
dispute it, yeah.
The numbers are absolutely crazy. I mean, what do the Seahawks need to do? Well, whatever you do, stop the run and start the run on your side. one thing that we saw with the Seahawks is they got down so quickly, so early. They were down 14 points before we even had a chance to sit, you know?
Yeah, and then when you have that, the offense just kind of goes pass. Like,
And it
I
becomes
think
very
Ryan Grubb's a
predictable.
good play caller, but listen, I think that he's coaching for next year.
He kind of has to be.
He kind of one of the things that fans lamented, and I think Coach McDonald did to an extent as well, is that we talked about how they need to run the ball more. I think that when they get down a little bit, like it just becomes like he's at UW again last year and
Just
like
throw it.
throwing the ball over the yard. Which in that scenario, you had a better team than everybody. This is different.
Well, he's got guys like Jackson Smith and Jake who's having a great year.
Oh,
Tyler
goodness,
Lockett and Tyler Lockett's making clutch catches, and DK is just being DK, obviously. But that being said, it's hard to just dignify run the ball, and I'm a big run the ball guy, especially when you have a guy like Zach Charbonnet, who was a lone bright spot in the whole entire game on Sunday. With that touchdown, some may say it's a garbage time touchdown. It's more of a
They were fighting back. They were
morale boosting touchdown,
Yeah,
because it go from 0 to 2.
Well, you were still
10.
fighting at that point, 23-13.
Right, yeah, and you're fighting. And I said at the top of the podcast, Nico's like they had chances. I'm like,
We have differing views. You're probably right that they didn't, but I was like,
just the way things were going, it just
it didn't feel like they were going to rally to win.
Right, especially without Geno.
Yeah.
I do think that Zach Charbonnet is a great running back, and I know
out of practice Wednesday, so we'll be monitoring that along with K9. But they feel good about K9.
The situation is bleak in that case.
Yeah, listen,
because what's the deal with K9? Not practicing, or just like
they feel like he's going to come back this week, but we're
Okay.
going to monitor as it goes on. Yeah, he's got the calf injury.
Sure.
It's the crazy thing about that. He left that Jets game with no injury designation. He finished the game, and then 2 days later, an injury popped up.
Right.
And my camera likes looking at the Dubs picture here.
Again.
You
know why? It's because it's such a good picture, Nico. It's a good picture of our most favorite. I love Blitz, and I love the Mariner moves.
Well, you know what? It's looking right at the Seahawk in the 12, so I'm going to kind of lean down.
The best mascot in.
How do you not love
sports.
Dubs?
No, honestly, Dub is amazing. Dub's amazing. Like I said, how you beat the Vikings. I think the Seahawks need the ball first and to run the ball down the field. Just take a playbook play out of the Packers playbook from this week, because honestly, and we talk about the schedule, and a lot of times right now you have to look at the schedule. As Nico,
there we go.
How's it going, Nico? Okay,
I'm actually in control of it for.
He's in control. Okay,
life.
Cool. We talk about the Rams and the things that they have to do, or the things that the Seahawks have to do. I think a lot of time, this year in particular, who makes the playoffs is coming down to the last game. Now, I know there's a tiebreaker situation, and I know things don't look great right now, but let me tell you something. I have a sneaking suspicion the last 3 games of the year for the Rams.
Okay.
On the road in New York against the Jets.
Okay.
And at home against the Cardinals. I'm willing to almost bet money that they will lose to the Cardinals.
Really?
Or lose one of those 2 games. There's no way they're dropping. They're not winning both those games.
You don't think so?
I don't think so either, because
I would say they will.
The Cardinals are a frisky team. They're a tough team.
I think they're good enough.
It's a divisional team, and they are right outside of that playoff.
About to play for
a playoff hunt. And the 2 games we saw in the Seahawks play against the Cardinals. That first game, without the pick 6, it could have gone either way.
Sure.
The second game was a different game altogether. The Cardinals are good. They're better than a lot of people think they are. But the Rams are also very good. They kept up with the Bills a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
They can definitely score a lot of points. The last game of the year, and I'm coming to this as thinking, prediction, spoiler alert, the Seahawks ain't winning this week.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. It'll be tough.
It'll be tough. But so the Seahawks drop 1, Rams drop 1. Seahawks can definitely beat the Bears here 2 weeks from now. That last game against the Rams, it's a big deal.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would, may as well.
And that's who gets in the playoffs, because no one from this division is winning
I
the
agree
wild
with this.
card.
I'm going to go with you on this. I think they lose this weekend. We're in prediction mode now.
Sure.
Vikings are going to win this game 27-14, 27-17. Like, the Hawks will fight, but it's I don't know.
And I just hope nothing happens to Geno Smith. You don't want to have the injury re-aggravated. And just because if that's the case, then that's kind of it.
Right. Oh God, yeah. And I think that but I do think they'll beat the Bears.
Yeah.
And I think for a 3rd season in a row, it's going to come down to the last game of the season.
Right.
You remember they beat the Rams in 22, then the Lions beat the Packers to get them in. Then they beat the Cardinals last year, but the Packers won, so they got.
And I think that's probably the best thing for this team. Because and we say this a lot in baseball.
Right.
A lot of times the teams that are trying to fight the way into the playoffs.
Yeah.
With the wild card, you have to win like 3 straight in a row, or against a division opponent at the last game, the game 163 that they used to do. When that last Rams game becomes a must-win, it's the best case scenario for the Seahawks. Yeah,
you think it's the best case? Okay.
I think it's the best case scenario, but also you need the Rams to lose one of those 2 games. I think the Jets game could bite them. I think that it's more likely.
Yeah,
the
only way
Cardinals
it doesn't become must-win is if they lose the next 2 and the Seahawks win the next 2 or something like that.
Right.
Because then you're getting back into tiebreakers and stuff like
well,
that.
If the
I
Seahawks,
don't envision that happening.
If the Seahawks win this game against the Vikings, there's a Seahawks head.
It's within your reach, I think.
I will do the entire next podcast wearing this.
Do we get a preview or?
I've won it before.
Oh, that's right, you have.
But the entire one, come on now. I'm a little bit more vain than that to do that. So, but yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I like this team, and you have to imagine this is the first year the Mike McDonald era has gone way better than expected. I would say
it'd be nice if they could get into the postseason.
It would be nice,
and I think they can. I think it's going to come down to that last game. Listen, we talked about it a minute ago. The defense has to figure out what they did wrong against the Packers, and it was silly stuff like, again, getting confused by like you said, the eyes were going everywhere, by the motion, things like that. They eventually settled down, and
the second half was much better.
They played much better. Right. So the hope is that they did that, but they have to play a full game, and I know I sound like a coach when I say that. And additionally, stick to the plan. Look at how, the way they beat the Cardinals. Yes, the turnovers turning into touchdowns, that was the difference. Mm-hmm. That's the formula for this team. I guess it's formula for every team, right? Getting takeaways. But I guess what I'm trying to say is being that aggressive defense that isn't getting, gashed and things like that, but also from the same standpoint of not getting away from your identity. Because once the Packers threw that early punch and we're up 14-0, the offense lost its identity.
Right.
And was playing catch-up. And there was a few good plays here and there. JSN had some nice catches and things like that. But ultimately, you became one-dimensional.
Sure.
Right? And ultimately, Charbonnet had some nice runs, even that late, the touchdown or whatever. But, he just didn't see the ball nearly enough because
you're fighting from behind.
Yeah, it's almost like they got into panic mode offensively. Right. And I'm not going to pretend to be in that offensive coordinator's booth, but I think that we can all see that they got away from who they were, and it really limited their chances of coming back.
Well, I would have liked to see in the second half is I want to go back to one thing you said. The Packers actually stopped running the ball in the second half.
Yeah.
Because I think they figured...
Which we were trying to figure out in the press box. We're like, wait, what?
Because I think that they thought that the Seahawks were queuing in on things that they were doing as far as running the ball in the first half, so let's just go passing in the second half, which that turns out that ended up working okay.
Yeah, they got Reek in a couple of bad spots. I think he'll be bouncing back. I'm a big Reek fan.
Yeah.
But they had some spots where they put the Seahawks defenders
in really
difficult positions.
And that Jordan Love touchdown to Dobbs was one of the best catches I've ever seen. If you look at it from the end zone, there's no Jordan Love. Essentially, you couldn't see Romeo Dobbs, because the Seahawks defender was all over him. But because of the way that they work on it, I guess in practice, he was able to throw to a spot, and Dobbs was able to reach for it right in front of the pylon. That's next level stuff.
Yeah,
that's almost undefendable. What I wanted to see that the Seahawks did, they became very predictable. Not just in that they were passing all the time. In the Atlanta game, we saw something where Geno threw a pass to JSN. JSN ran a little bit and threw a pass to DK Metcalf. There was no trickeration.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want to see 100 trick plays, but I'm just saying that the Packers are expecting drop back passes.
Switch it up a little bit.
Switch it up a little bit.
Yeah. So the road is set. I think when you look at it, this is going to be a really difficult game to win. They can do it.
Right.
We thought the Niners on the road was going to be difficult. We thought Arizona on the road was going to be difficult. We thought a lot of games that they've won.
But this is,
this is probably the toughest game other than that Lions game in September.
Lions, the Seahawks have actually had a pretty brutal schedule.
And the Bills game, of course.
When you think about the Seahawks schedule, they've had a pretty brutal schedule. Think about the teams of where they are right now. Playing Buffalo, definitely. Having to play the Rams twice, also always difficult. Niners twice. But coming back-to-back with Packers and Vikings is just brutal.
Well, and the other thing you got to consider, too, after this Vikings game, the short turnaround, the Thursday game with the Bears. Is that going to affect when you're going to Chicago? It's probably going to be the Tundra there, day after Christmas.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
So this is far from they're going to be there. Do I think they'll beat the Bears? Yes, I've seen enough.
Well, they have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they have to.
The situation,
right.
Seeing Mike McDonald, how he can adjust. This game is an uphill battle, but if they can get it,
this says
changes
a lot.
Everything.
This says a lot, honestly.
Yeah, so it's going to be tough. Minnesota weapons all over. Boy, oh boy, what a test for that talented Seahawks secondary. What a test for those guys up front that we know are playing some really good football right now. Leonard Williams had some great tackles for loss in that Sunday loss to Green Bay. If the Seahawks defense can get to the level it was at maybe just a few weeks ago, then I think we're in a game that's a fight to the wire. But I worry, and that's why I made my Minnesota prediction, I worry that the Packers exposed a few things. That, yes, the Seahawks are working right now, I promise you. They've been dying to look at that film and see the last 3 days, dissecting it and understanding, okay, like, we did this wrong. We got to fix it. But ultimately, as you know, Naj, like, it's one thing to see it on film, it's another thing to execute it.
Right.
Otherwise, everybody would correct everything. And
execute it against a potentially better team.
Yeah, so that's why I, as much as I want the Hawks to win, I can't predict it in good conscience this week. However, it's possible. Like, I'm not saying they have no chance. It's possible if we see the effort like we saw at Arizona and things like that, and at San Francisco.
I put the Seahawks' chances of winning this game at 10%.
I would say
I'm not going to give you.
I'm not knocking that one, but I put it more like 25-30 in my opinion.
Okay, see, Nico's the ever optimist.
And if I'm saying 25-30,
the situation is not
the
good.
best thing ever.
The situation is not good, but I'm excited for the game. I mean, it could be the last game. Lumen Field, please, 12.
DK Metcalf talked about that.
Like, this is a big deal. Please pack the stands out.
He's like, don't sell your tickets to the other fans.
No, we saw a lot of cheeseheads in Green Bay.
It reminded me of the Buffalo game.
I know both these fan bases are diehard fan bases. Yeah. They travel so well, but listen,
no, yeah,
Lumen Field, like,
I totally understand.
What are we talking about
that
here?
These tickets are crazy expensive, and that sometimes if you have seasons, like, you have to unload some of them.
Just go hang out on a Sunday night and have a couple on Sunday.
And I know you don't see who's buying them on StubHub and those secondary sites. I get it, but ultimately, if there's a waiting list of fans trying to get season tickets.
There
right?
was a "Go Pack Go" chant in the first quarter.
There was a couple of them.
There was a couple. There was a strong one in the first quarter.
DK said then when he talked on Wednesday, DK said it was so loud he looked around, he couldn't believe it. And he's like, this isn't what our home field is.
No.
Now, I know what some fans are out there like, oh, if you win, we'll pack the place. Well, it's more than that, though. They entered the game in first place.
Yeah, they need your support.
Right? I mean,
and this is a winnable division still, I believe.
It is. Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, look at it. Look at the numbers. Tiebreaker. All it takes is the Rams maybe tripping up, like you mentioned, potentially.
I think it's going to
happen.
happen.
Seahawks, listen, if they both split these next two games, that game in L.A. is for everything.
It's huge.
It's everything.
It's huge.
The only way it gets the waters get a little bit muddied is if the Rams win 2 and the Seahawks win 1, and then they can't win actually at that point.
Yeah,
but,
then they can't.
Although
win.
there could be a point differential.
But then we see and we talk about Lumen Field having the home field advantage. The Seahawks play better on the road this year.
Yeah.
Than at Lumen Field,
so
which is an odd thing to say.
You have to put yourself in position for that to be as meaningful as it can be.
Right.
Maybe a tall task against Minnesota. You don't want to rely on somebody tripping up the Rams. So regarding, we'll wait and see what happens Sunday, but that potentially makes the Bears game must win.
Try your hardest, guys.
Try your hardest.
Try your hardest, guys.
What's your score prediction?
Oh, I can't give one, but I can give a quick shout out to our boy, speaking of dubs, Michael Penix Jr. getting the start in Atlanta this week.
I can't wait.
Shout out to Michael Penix Jr., the silky do-rag. He's ready.
I will say this. I've said it before on live air, and I'll say it again. Mike throws the prettiest deep ball I've ever seen in person. I've been blessed to cover a lot of great NFL games.
Can't confirm.
It's just so effortless. Like, when he throws the ball, you don't think it's going to go like 50 or 60, whatever it is,
right.
and land right in Roma Dunze's or hopefully now Drake London's arms. Like,
he's got a great deep
I'm
ball.
happy for him, and he's a great guy.
He's a great guy. He
Mike.
got the call when he was you're about to eat a Costco hot dog.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, in
Nice.
Atlanta, and he's just like, okay, we're going. This, and the Falcons could look like geniuses about drafting him. Some may say too high after signing Kirk Cousins, but
I loved him being picked at 8, even if the Falcons waited and didn't make him start till next year, or even the year after.
Sure. Well,
I think he's that good.
Kirk Cousins has had issues. So
9 interceptions in 5 games is usually in 1 touchdown.
Look, it's like my college football.
How can you throw 1 touchdown in 5 games and be expected to start?
Those are my same numbers in my college football 25.
Well, I got to play that again. I haven't played in a while.
The situation is bleak there as well.
It is.
But and also Penix is playing against the Giants, so he should be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I hope so.
Well, there you go. So we're rooting for Mike. We're rooting for the Hawks. We're going to revisit you just a couple days before Christmas as we gear up for Thursday Night Football with the Seahawks and Bears. But right now, Seahawks, Vikings, can't wait. Thanks for checking us out, tuning in each week. We love bringing you the show. As we always mention, it's cool because Najee and I are at the games. We're with the team at the VMAC, getting to hear what the guys are saying, get the vibe, the energy of the place. And that's the energy and vibe. When we had that 4-game win streak, it was really cool to see, and hopefully it's a little bit recaptured with a win against Minnesota, and certainly giving us a home stretch that'll take things down to the wire. So that is the KOMO Sports End Zone. For Najee Moye, I'm Nico Tamurian. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.